Nothing has gone wrong in the world or your life because both are waiting for you to fix them. And you do that when you become your authentic self. That is the step that you take in self ownership. And it's a process that you move through in your life. And also, we do that in our world, meaning that we're always in this process of raising our consciousness to understand who we are, accept who we are, so that we can contribute something to the world. That's what every human does. But sometimes we don't understand who we are, or we don't believe who we are, or we don't accept who we are. And that could be occurring for you now because we're moving through this incredible shift in our world. You might look at things and believe that everything's falling apart and you don't understand why there's so much, you know, anger or chaos or things that have been happening and the wars and all that, but it's all energy. And this is why you are here to fix it. And you fix it energetically. That's how we heal. We have to put ourselves back together. But I'm just going to give you some things because this video is going to change your life if you listen to the entire thing, because I'm going to show you a few messages because you are aligned with the universe. The universe, there's an alignment that goes on, and I'm going to show you that. Nothing's happening accidentally. We just figure it out as we live and as civilization keeps advancing. We develop new things. It was very challenging for me to think, wait a minute, I downloaded a complete philosophy that could change the world, that could change your life. And saying those words were really, really difficult. But I know that it's true, and I have to stop like hiding from it because you'll see that's what I've done. You have done the same thing. We all have. If we had not stopped progressing to the potential that we had within us, the world would be fixed. We wouldn't have any problems. But we come into the world at specific times, you, to do something to evolve. And if we do that, we have a much better life, and then we contribute that to our world. And I'm going to prove it to you today because if you listen to this entire video, you'll just be thrilled. You'll feel so much better about everything that's going on because I'm going to read these messages. Then at the end, I'm going to put in a channeling session, a Wilhelm session that was from 2021. And when you listen to it, you will hear how it explains exactly what is happening in our world now and in your life. There's consciousness is a continuation. It doesn't go anywhere. And the whole idea about time, um, linear time, we have to operate that way, but that's not how time really exists. And that's not a concept you need to get into now. But just know that wherever you are on the earth right now to do something, and it's within you. And if you do it, you're making an energetic contribution that starts to change everything. It changes your life first, and then it starts to permeate the world, and then we have a much better world. That's just how it works, and that's the science of it, actually. But let me show you these messages first, and then, like I said, at the end, you can listen to the session. Listen to as much as you want. I mean, it's an hour, but you'll get save it. You'll get so much more from it because it will give you so much more clarity about what you might be experiencing in your life or witnessing in the world. That's what I want you to have. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others and leave comments. I'd love to hear that, what you guys think. I have not done a lot of comments, but I will get back to them because I've just been trying to give you greater understanding. And today it will happen. All right. Thanks, guys. November 10th, 2020. You are them. We have given you in that sentence what you all sought to discover by creating your current pandemic or the global restructuring of which we spoke and are speaking still. We gave Roger a lot of detailed information, but different from before, he does not fear the information but wants to get it right. Also, Roger struggles to move beyond his judgment of himself, as you all do, and that is because you do not understand or accept evolution entirely. We will have this make sense by leaving a message at the end, which was given more than a year ago. but we are referring to this current time. Yesterday, Roger witnessed what was occurring in the United States presidential election and attempted to make sense of what he was seeing. You all do this. You decided to be born at this time to observe your world now and offer your input to further evolution. The problem is you don't believe you can do that. Every lifetime you have something new you wish to accomplish. It is always doing more than you did before. We know the concept of what might have occurred before this existence is challenging, but none of you need to look that far to see how you have allowed fear to halt your evolution. Several days ago, we had Roger search the term plausible deniability. Roger did not know why, but as he saw the light, the fight still occurring over the results, it was quite clear to him that the fight was within him, as it has been for you. We know that some may say politics are not important, but we would offer that everything that shows up in your physical life experience is there for you to utilize somehow. Everything that comes into your experience is for you to use in your expansion. Roger knew what he was witnessing was something within him. He could recognize this when he did not focus on those unwilling to change or accept the unknown in this political process. And he knew what he saw in others is what he has seen in himself, which is still and always has been a fear of the unknown. Could you be that powerful? Or were you born without the talents and abilities others possess? When those thoughts came to Roger, he sat down last night and looked at the work he wanted to do and knew he was the one resisting. What might happen if he stopped doing that? What would happen if you stopped doing that? We will leave you with this message to which we referred for that opening sentence is quite telling. You have resisted becoming yourself, but this current restructuring is what you wanted to move beyond that limitation. You will be fine. Wilhelm. You came to be love. It was such a struggle to pull those words out of you, which will explain the difficulty you and others encounter in your lives. You find it difficult to believe that if you were to be in love with your life, then you would have everything you want. But it is true. You and others have avoided this concept. But if you look back and find our message, stop fighting yourself, this will make sense. But now you know that even your willingness to examine this, you will no longer be able to ignore its emergence in your life. You will no longer be able to, you will no longer not be able to do your job. The reason you want to do this is being in the state of love is the most powerful existence because it is absent of all judgment of you or anything else. Many of you will understand this. Wilhelm. May 21st, 2022. Please stop fighting yourself. That title is one we have given Roger many times over the years because he has fought against himself endlessly. You might have done the same. And you may be doing it a bit more now due to the restructuring of your world and the restructuring that was meant to occur within you. You come into the world to offer a gift, and at times you resist that because you have labeled your particular contribution as something not worthy, strange, or different. And Roger has done that, so he is the best example for all of you. We have said you were moving through a restructuring, and nothing you knew would be the same. You will not be the same, and you are being asked to become more. And to become more, you must also become willing to move into the unknown, which you have become fearful of as Roger has. Even though we have given Roger much of this over the years, his resistance has kept him from receiving it and delivering it to each of you. The other day, we sat him down to listen to a recording of a live session we had given some time ago that he had not heard. He resists seeing what is there. However, he listened to what we wanted you all to hear about this time in your world. Here is the recording, and it's what does the future hold for your life? And that will be at the end. You exist in the world now to offer significant change, and the change must happen first within you. When you don't understand your importance, it's challenging for you to provide your essence to this movement in your world. When Roger saw what we had given him and started to put everything together, he knew that the program would help the world. However, he did the same thing he has always done. He discounted what he had. And he thought if he lowered the price, maybe more of you would be tempted to move. That never works, which we have told him. Yesterday, we also had someone else say he could receive so much more and make a more significant impact if he charged more than he's doing. Roger can do that too, but that has been his struggle. He wants to do so much for others, except he harms himself in that effort. As we have said, this restructuring is in all areas, especially wealth and income inequality. As humans, you have placed far more value on material things than on yourself. This particular restructuring requires more of you to own your worth and value, which we have been attempting to get Roger to understand. But he, like you, resists that unknown because you have become accustomed to certainty. Certainty is never what you wanted. You wanted to become more, and it's challenging as it has been for Roger. We have told him to change. Whenever you find yourself struggling in your life financially, emotionally, or spiritually, it is because you are fighting against yourself. We advise Roger to change the wording on our program so more of you would understand the intention. But the person that we need to understand the words we gave him is Roger. You will be fine, Wilhelm. November 10th, 2018. When your excuses no longer work, you are where you wanted to be in your life precisely. You attempted not to hear or write this message, but your actions are a critical aspect that will help you and all others understand this information. You have developed a habit of abdicating your power, meaning that you assign it to anything and everything outside of yourself. As you continue on your path of evolvement, you can no longer do that, and then you find yourself at a crossroads, so to speak, that you can no longer ignore. It was never that you were not capable. It was never that others were better, and it was never that you didn't have all the resources. It has only been your reluctance to regain your power. You can no longer not notice this, Wilhelm. We are ready to begin. We are so pleased that you are all here, and we have waited for you your entire lives. We are saying that seriously. You did not show up at this moment, at this time in your life accidentally. You're here for a reason, and you're going to probably understand that reason a bit more. The message that we gave this morning was you may choose to accept your importance. The reason we said that is because sometimes you don't. Roger has not for years and years and years. And so that's why he understands in a very deep level why you have not done that. And he also understands that his mission here in this world now is to help more of you come to that place of understanding. The last time we were here, we said that our purpose was to help you kind of mitigate or move through the fear and doubt that you were experiencing. Today, it's different. And this is why we waited until today. Today, it's about acceptance and understanding your denial. You have been denying who you are. You have been doubting it, which we covered before, but the denial has been there as well. And so now you are going to move into a place of acceptance, because this is the time in your life journey, that it was supposed to happen. And it coincides with exactly what's going on in your world. And you can see what's happening in the world. It's disjointed. There's chaos, there's separation, there's conflict, and that's within you. And so it's perfect, because you wanted to be here now to pull all this together, because you've gone through your life doubting what you've been given, the guidance, what you might have seen. And then you did the other thing, was compare yourself to everyone else, and that held you back a lot more. But now it's quite different. And we'll tell you why, and we'll tell you why you're on the earth at this point. Okay. We have given Roger so much information over the years. And last night we even went further, and to tie this together. The reason that we have that particular message on the screen is because we want you to pay attention to the date. We've done this many times. We did it last time, because there's a continuity in your life that shows up at the right time. We began giving him all of this information years ago, but the one here will make more sense to what's happening in your life and in the world right now. It's happening in the world. Last night we took Roger, and we took him because he will see something and just knows that he's being guided. You each have this, but sometimes you don't go there. We're pointing this out as well, because he did not do that. Now he does it all the time. He sees something, he has an intuitive feeling, a hit from that, and he says, I know I'm supposed to go there. I'm not sure why, but that's what I'm going to do. You each are guided that way, but it becomes sometimes a little challenging for you to accept that until you have proof. And so what we did was we kept bringing up proof for Roger so he can give it to you, so that you can have this information, so that you move a bit closer to accepting your importance in the world. Because see, there is no difference in any of you. You are each that important. One person could change the entire world. And what's actually happened many times in your histories, that has occurred. You can see great leaders who have come, and one person made this huge shift in your consciousness, in your world. You possess that same ability, but you may not have accepted it, but that's okay, because it might not have been time for you to do that. The time for you to do this part of your experience is now, meaning you decided to be alive during this great change in your world, which we have called the Great Restructuring, because you're being restructured. Everything about you is being restructured. Some of you have felt this, because you said, wait a minute, I want to do something different now. I want to do this thing that I put away a long time ago. Oh, I'm remembering what was there when I was a child, and now I'm going to do that. And you set that up so you could be alive now to do that. Now, what you're dealing with, though, is all the other energies and everything that's going on in your world that are causing you a bit of confusion. But you came here to help others move through that confusion. That's why you're going to do it. What we're saying is, you come into the world, you've been here many times, you've had many different lives, and each time you choose something different. But this, you know what you chose this time. You chose to be a person who was going to give back, who was going to give love, who was going to be a loving person. And you knew that you were also this benevolent person underneath that, but you may have struggled with that. You may have struggled with that your entire life, and you couldn't accept it. It's going to be easier. We said this before. Now it will be easier, because your entire world is moving into a new paradigm, and so are you. And you came to do that. That's why you are important. We got so excited and we created some urgency around these talks. Roger didn't even know why, because we said we want you to wake up to who you are because the world needs you. The world needs your essence. Why do you think the world looks the way it does now? It's because you haven't stepped up and become who you're supposed to be. That's why. And anytime that you think that you are not that important, you're lying to yourselves, because you are. It just takes you time as you're moving through your evolutionary journey to understand that. So let's explain something else which we gave Roger. Now, many civilizations, you've had many of them. You've come in at different times. You've been different things. Last night, we led Roger to the Crusades. And he's like, why are you doing this? And we wanted him to look at King Richard, Lionheart. And we said, now make the connection here. Because see, you just had this new moon, which many of you are excited about. You called it the Lion's Gate. And so he said, now look at King Richard. See, that was going on then. What is happening in your world was occurring then. And you each took different roles. You accepted different things. What that means is, and you will see it now, and the reason that we're doing this, because it's very important that you come to understand this. You come into the world with certain beliefs, feelings, and things that you're meant to do. Everyone is not going to do and be what you have been given. It is only for you. And the reason it was given over only to you is because you possess a completely different DNA than anyone else on the planet. But what you've done is that you've looked at other people and trying to find yourself, your DNA existing in that other person, because then maybe you would feel okay to own yourself. You're never going to find that, because you came to be a leader. Each one of you came to be a leader. And you've known that, you felt it, and you've wondered why you couldn't bring it about, why you couldn't do it, or what was holding you back, why you couldn't believe in yourself. It's because the timing was supposed to be now. And that's what's happening. And you felt that. There's something that's been stirring up. There's an accelerated energy going on in your planet right now to cause all of this to happen. And you have seen it. And it's not just the one thing. It's not just your pandemic, which we said before. It's everything. The weather, that's part of it. The conflicts, that's the other part of it. And now when you look at that message that we gave you in 2017, that's on the wall, that's what's happening right now. You will make choices. Each of you individually will make choices of what is important to you. And those choices will be based on whether you think the most important thing is for you to just only take care of yourself. And many people will make that choice because that's the life they're supposed to live this time. That is not you, and you've known that. You have made the choice that you were going to do something that you knew was going to give to you, but you knew it was also going to help other people. And there was some mission, something that you held that you knew you were meant to fulfill, and it hasn't happened because it was supposed to happen now. Roger is a perfect example for this, and we want to explain this again, so we did this before. We started communicating with him in 1988. And we're saying all of this because we need you each to not make your communications with your higher self weird. We don't want it to be weird. You each have the ability to do what Roger's doing, not in this way. You don't necessarily have to do this. You don't have to go public, but you do have to listen to your higher self. It is there. It's always there. That's why you hear it when you're in meditation. It comes through. The challenge that you each have is that you want to know what everything is. You want to know where everything is going. And then, because that will kind of satisfy your ego, feeling secure, but that's not what you wanted. You wanted to expand and evolve, but you needed impetus. This particular period in your world is giving you impetus to move, to start to decide, wait a minute, this is really uncomfortable, holding myself back, not believing in myself has been really horrible. That's okay, because now is the time you were supposed to do it. When we did our last talk, we made a joke about Florida, but we did that intentionally. Because we wanted you to look at it now. And we waited until today because we wanted you to see the results of that. See, because what each of you have done in your lives is denied what's in front of you and made other choices. And then you wonder why things are falling apart. That's what happened there. Do you see, people were given certain things, but what we have on the screen is explaining what's happening there. And we gave it to you a long time ago. Actually, we did it longer than that. You each have been here for eons. You're eternal beings. Each time you come in, you do something different. So you've got to figure out this time who you're going to be. Where are you going to be? We're going to talk about something else because each of you have these challenges, and we're going to talk about it in a way that you'll understand it. You come into the world with biases. You had to, because they're energetically connected to all those who came before, your DNA, your evolutionary journey, all your ancestors, your parents, all your family, all of that. So you came in with biases, and they're different than everyone else's. Now, as you start moving through your life, you start to recognize those things, but sometimes you don't own them. The other day, we gave a talk. We were speaking on this because we noticed someone who was trying to express themselves, because many people these days are now feeling that their voices need to be heard. And that's true. That's why you're feeling that. And you should speak up. But they were unwilling to say something because it involved something political. It was a political statement. Well, of course, you're going to have a political statement because that's who you are. You are your government. You came here to make all of that. And you're going to have preferences. And to not own them means you're denying something about you, or to be afraid of it, that means you're denying something about you. See, because you are the people that knew that you could come here, look at everyone else's differences, and allow your light to still shine through and bring that to the world. And that's why you're here. And that's why we got so excited, because we want you to come to that, because you're needed right now. The world that you want, the future that you want in your world is not guaranteed. It is not guaranteed. And if you don't understand that, just look at what's going on. So it's depending on you to make a difference and offer more light and love in this world and move things forward. When we took Roger last night, and we say that because we guided him, he was trying to go to bed, but we said, no, we want you to see this because it's going to tie everything together today. And so we had him look at the Philistines. And so he goes, why am I doing that? Haven't done that since grade school. I don't know what that is. And so what you see, and because we said before that the society that you want may not be here. And you have examples of that in your history. But that's the other thing. A lot of you don't study your history. A lot of you don't look. And somehow you think that if you don't look, that it's going to just magically take care of itself. And which we spoke about this morning, that is maybe a problem. Okay, because if you don't look at your history, you're saying, oh, my history is so terrible. I've done all these horrible things. I'm a terrible person. So you can't get out of that, except you were given your history to understand it, learn from it. And so you don't do the same things, or that you gather the wisdom and knowledge from those experiences and use them. That's what you're supposed to do with your history. You're supposed to look at your history, see what they did, and say, okay, now I understand what I'm doing. I'm going to do something different because I came to move the world forward. Okay, so the Philistines, they're gone because there were wars just like what you're doing right now. And then they got absorbed into another society. And so their identity is just gone. We gave them that example, but you've had many other civilizations that you don't know about that have been gone. Now, we told them, you don't need to go there. There are many other civilizations that you don't know about, but that's not what you're about now. You don't need to worry about that, but it does exist. You can just hold that in your head to know that there's much more of an expansive universe than you have been made aware of. But you always come to understand it. You come to see it. But right now, you have the ability to make this dramatic shift in your world if you come together, own yourself and others, and move the world forward. The reason we brought up Florida and what we said before, because it's really apparent now, you're not to judge any of that. You're supposed to observe it. See, because you're going to see people who have been given certain things and understandings and then make different choices. everyone is not going to see the same thing that you do. Roger knows that no one sees everything that he does. We gave him a long time ago, let's do this. We told him, which he resisted for the longest time, we said, your particular mission is to come in and talk about spirituality, human development, personal development, and science. Because to him, they're all the same thing. Now, for us, it doesn't matter. We're neutral. Roger has biases. We told you this before. He has these biases and he knows them. He knows where they're connected. They're connected to his history, all of that. You each have that. But you also have the awareness that you know that you're trying to work through your biases so you can get to love of yourself, because that is everyone else. You each come to know that at some point. The overview that we provided, Roger, which we will give to you now, if you look at your world, it has changed many, many times over. And every iteration that you create of your world comes out to be more evolved, to be more enlightened. But what has happened over the last 100 or more years, you've gone in a really different direction. So that's why you had to put all of these things together, that maybe you would see what you were doing and decide to change. But then you started doing this plausible deniability. And we told them to look that up too. And you should look that up. It's just what's gone on in your world. Now, that term was typically used for your governments, meaning that your government figures would do things and then pretend like they didn't happen so they can maintain power. You know, if you don't have to look at anything, then you don't have to change it. And that's, as you know, that is going on in your world now. There have been many things, especially in the United States, where things have happened and people say, we don't want to look at that. We do not want to examine that. Then we told Roger this morning, there are even some of your spiritual leaders and thought influencers and all of that who say, forget your past, don't look at it. Just put it away, don't think about it again. And every time you do that, you're telling yourself your past was terrible. You're telling yourself you're a terrible person because you did these things. You had these experiences, you screwed up something, but you're a terrible person. So don't look at that. And so now you can't get the information from it. You can't gather the wisdom, the knowledge that you gain from those experiences to move your life forward and then help other people, because that's why you're here. Everyone is, but right now is the time we're being so forceful about this because we want you to understand the urgency of the moment. Not that the world's going to fall apart, but you might. You see, because if you don't take advantage of this opportunity now, which is why we gave you the message this morning, if you don't take it, we don't know when you might do it. Roger had to go through so many different things, and it was terrible and horrible until he finally let go and said, okay, this is the direction. However, this is the thing we want you to understand, because he keeps talking about it. Everything he has gone through, and there's been a lot, everything that he has moved through, he now understands. All the horrible stuff, all the difficult things, all that stuff he understands, because it was something that was in his DNA that he needed to work through to cause his evolution. And he did it at a time that coincided with what was going on in the world. You are doing that too, which is, again, why we say that's why you're here now. That's why you're either in this room, or that's why you're listening, or whenever you do listen to it, it will still be the same. You've never had an accidental experience occur, none of it. It's been planned. We went to great lengths on the last session to show you. We had this one message up that was from 1989 that made sense now. Do you see? That's a progression. You each progress in your own evolvement incrementally, because you can't accept it all at once. That's what it is. Now, you come into the world, you decide this, and this is going to be, we're going back to the fairy tale, and that we call it that because we want you to think of it that way. You come into the world, you see where you want to go, you look at you scan the world, and you say, okay, now where would be the best place for me to go? Who would be the best parents for me to choose so they could help me move through my evolutionary journey? Because I know that I've been stuck somewhere. I know that I'm not the full being that I could be. I know that I'm experiencing some limitations. So where would be the best place that I could go? And that's where you were plopped. That's where you went. Because then you also knew that if you were there and you would go through all these things, then you would end up today at this place so that you could hear why you were doing it. You were doing it because you're releasing a whole lot of shame and guilt and all these limitations that you have carried and also everyone who's come before has carried. That's what happens. When we took Roger to King Richard, he thought, well, maybe I'm connected to that. And he was, in a very different way. And that's what we wanted him to see. Because there were some things that this guy did that Roger would never have done. But he feels that energetic connection. So now he's compelled to do something to correct that, to make a difference, to offer something different into the world. Each of you are doing that now. There are no exceptions to this. The only problem is it just may take you a little while to uncover that for a lot of different reasons. Many different reasons. You may have, even as Roger discovered, some neurological things going on that are blocking your awareness of who you are. But more importantly, what you've done is you've programmed yourself into limitation, into smallness. But you did that for a reason too. And this one you didn't know. You did that because you knew that if you were to work through that, those are the conditions that you set up. You knew that if you were to work through that and finally decide this is who I am, you were going to create this magnificent life. And you knew if you did that, you would help so many other people. And that timing is happening now. That's why we said this opportunity is within your realm. It's for you to grab it. And it's challenging. The reason that Roger talks about his challenges is because he knows that's his role, because he has to get you out of your criticism, your judgment, because he's lived all of that. He's done all of that. He knows that it was purposeful at the time to get him here. And so he needs you to come to understand that as well, because then you'll start to move. Then you'll start to do things a bit at a time. You don't do it all at once. That's why we said we wanted to show this long trek. Okay, we'll go here because some of you will have this. Some of you are old souls. We told Roger that a while ago, and he says, no, I don't want to know that because that seems to have a little bit of responsibility, which it does. And you felt that. Some of you have that. Some of you feel like I've been here for a while. I know I've done this before. Now what? And you have an awareness that comes to you at times that you don't understand. Thoughts will come to you. You'll create something. You go, where did that come from? That was your communication. Okay. Now we're going to talk about our communication with Roger because we want each of you to do this because it'll be so much better for you. He resisted hearing us until he started to do some meditation many, many years ago, as you know. And then he went through a long, long period where that was it. He kept that hidden. Didn't want anybody to see it. You know, you might judge him like you've taught about yourselves. You see, so then he did that for the longest time. Then we made it too difficult for him to continue to do that. And you know how we did that? We started sending through so much information so quickly that it was impossible for him to write it because he had spent 30 years writing it all. We said, no, that was a level you were at before. Now you're supposed to move. We want you to talk. Oh, no, that's too crazy. That's too scary. People will really think that's weird. They will really judge me. My family will disown me. Except not doing it is stifling because he knows that's what he came to do. You know what he came to do. It is okay if you do not accept it fully at this moment, because you will. It's going to keep coming up, and that's why this period in your world is happening now. You will each look at the world and decide to take a position. That's the choice that we told you was coming. We said you will choose. That is coming up, and you're going to choose if you're going to be the person who's going to be more for humanity or just for yourself, only for yourself. Even though you can't do that, but that's the orientation that you think you have. We're saying that to other people because you guys are not that. You know that you came to offer something that was going to be helpful. You knew that this time that's what you were going to create. And every situation that you had, again, was for that purpose. Many of you know that we have a program that we gave Roger, which he didn't even know. We want to say this too, because there's so many things that he is continually connecting, which you will as well. In the program, our online program that we gave Roger, he wrote that thing and he didn't know where it came from. And he looks at it now and he thinks it came from someone else. He couldn't possibly have created this. See, that comes from generations of detachment from the value of the self, which many of you have done, and you're carrying that around. And that's why you can't own your worth. But it's okay, because again, you came here now to do it. This is the time that you intended to move through that and start to accept your importance. Some of you think that your little work wouldn't make any difference, and that's never true. That is absolutely never true. You could speak to one person, and that one person could then take your wonderful gift of information and give it to a couple of other people, and they take it to thousands. That's how it works. You saw this when you have your, let's go back to the elections. You saw that. You saw where one person could start doing something and then everybody follows. You each have that ability, but you're just giving it to other people sometimes. That's all. Now, but there's a shift going on. Everything, the reason we started talking about the restructuring, and you've all seen it, is that people are starting to want their freedom. They're desiring their freedom in whatever way they feel they need to express that. And we're going to take it to one other thing, because we also sent Roger to Eleanor Roosevelt. We did that because we want you to understand you've had great leaders who have given you such wonderful advice, but sometimes you miss it. You just don't see it. And so we made it a point of having him see these things. There have been many, many fights in your world about the what's going on with your virus, with the coronavirus, and wearing masks and all these different things, and fighting, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. That's what everyone's doing. Except then you get a result from your actions. You each have it. You see it. You can see it in your world. You've been given information. That's why we said we wanted you to look at certain things at Florida. And there are more, but look at that. And then you'll see that you have information, but you're doing something different. Now, that's an example. And again, we're saying you're not going to judge them, because you're going to look at them and see what you've done in your own life. You've been given evidence of this talent that you have. And then you say, no, that's not it. I'm not going to do that. I deny that. You see, that's what we're talking about. And you may have done it a long time. Now, we're going to give you something else. You may have done it because you're carrying that ancestral thread for it that you intended to break now. That's why you're here. It's easy for Roger to see the threads of his ancestry and what was connected, but we took him further, because this is what we want you all to do, which is also why we led him to King Richard. When you look at your DNA, if any of you have done that, you see your DNA, you can see that your bloodlines go all over the world. They go to so many places that you can't even imagine. And if more of you were to look at that, you would stop hating one another and come together. When the pandemic began, we're going all over here because we want you to get a grand scope of this. When the pandemic began, Roger started doing things that he didn't know why. He was just, again, following our direction. He started bringing people together, doing groups. He had no clue as to what he was doing or what was happening, except he knew what was happening. He knew what was happening. He knew it. You know things as well, but you sometimes deny it. And that caused him a lot of grief. He held it back, didn't want to talk about it. But what happened, what we gave him, was that your world has gone through many of these transitions, and you've done it in different ways. You've had catastrophes, you've had, the pandemics, you've had other things that have gone on where many, many people die. Things happen and many people die. You lose parts of your planet. Something happens, but then you come together. You start to heal things. You come together, and then the world comes together more and evolves. Except it's gotten so far off that you needed a big shift. And that's why we call this the restructuring. You're going to see that there's going to be a change in your governments. There's going to be a change in this wealth inequality that you've all lived with and accepted for so long. You're going to be more inclusive, because see, that's what happens every time you go through this. We're talking about your world. Every time you go through it, that's what happens. You can look back. It doesn't take much for you to examine this and see it. You can look at your world 100 years ago. That's why we did that several talks back. We said how many different events are all happening at once that happened 100 years ago or more that happening right now. That's not accidental. It's to get you to wake up. The weather is causing you to wake up too, but not many are doing that. It's beginning. And it's not dire. This is why we've been urgent about this. It is not dire. It can be changed. You have the ability to do so much. And if you do it now, it changes. But the big kahuna, the big thing that we wanted to give you, each of it, what you're here to do now, why you chose this time, is because you knew it would be so challenging that you have no choice but to start to accept yourself. You have no choice. That's what's going on. And what we are saying, you will come to understand it. You'll see it. Some of you may have heard it already and felt it and said, okay, I got that. Some of you will hear it later and you'll think about it and you'll see it show up in your life. It will not be accidental because that was what was meant to happen in your life. Again, we use this because we're so trying to impress this upon you. The date of the 2017 that we have on the screen, Roger had no clue as to what we were giving him then, just like you didn't really know what that thing was you were given as you've been moving through your life, but it's always been there. It's always there. Once you start to follow that direction. Okay, so what we told Roger, and this is the other part of the fairy tale, when you come in, you choose this particular different place to be. Sometimes you do different sexes, you do different races, parts of the country, whatever. You do different things, but you choose positions. Some of you humans, it's hard to talk about these things in this way because it's hard for you to get that, to understand that both positions are important. Otherwise, nothing changes. Okay, because you will make assertions, you will make classifications, let's say, as to those people are bad and we're good. That's what you do. And that's what we were talking about when we said, look at all what's happening throughout your civilizations. That's what happens every time. But then you have that chaos, that conflict, that contrast, you bring it together, and then what comes out of it is this lightness, because you come together and you evolve. And we've talked about this before, and we told Roger that what you do is you get under distress and then you create something. And if you were to study this, it would be so much fun because you could go back and see the great inventions that you have all made that have come after some tragedy, something difficult and challenging happened. And then some people decide, I'm going to sit down and create something. I'm going to figure something out. Can't do anything out there in the world. So let me figure this out. Let me become the powerful being that I know I can be. That's what's happening right now. For each of you, there's no separation. There's a hierarchical system that has existed in your world for eons. And every time it gets broken down, and that's what you're doing now, you're breaking down these structures. You don't need monarchs because you are that. That's the shift that is occurring, but it's gradual, it's incremental, and you'll see it. We talked about this some time ago. There was a very, Roger had in his experience, because you each have different ones, he had an experience, the civil rights movement of the 1960s. He remembers that vividly. He was there. And that was the place that kind of activated a little bit of his activism. He didn't know what it was at that time, but it was there. It was within him. But it looked different then. It was different. There were certain people that were protesting certain things that were different. This time when you did it, it was a different collection of people. How did that happen? And it happened over the world. It's not accidental. You're all trying to come into this ownership of who you are. But then the other interesting thing was, and this is what none of you, well, a lot have not thought of, which is why we took Roger to Eleanor Roosevelt. There was he saw someone saying, I want my freedom. I'm not wearing this mask. I want my freedom. And we thought that's interesting because you obviously don't know where freedom exists, because your freedom has never been contained in anything. It's only in your mind. So that's where your freedom is. And then you forgot the agreement that you made. You see, as a human, you decided to come into the world, into an orderly society where you could come together and create something for the good of all. And you knew that in doing so, there were certain things that you were going to make concessions. You couldn't have everything. You know the differences that you have. You couldn't have everything that you wanted. And so then when you got a little bit of yours, then you can let everybody else have a little bit of theirs. And then you come together and you evolve collectively and you create a world that's much more enlightened. And that's what you're doing now. So the point we're making is that you're going to see things in the next few weeks that are going to cause you to look at this division and make judgments. That's not why you came. You came to heal. You are the people who came to heal. And guess why you do that? By owning who you are. That's all you have to do. And we've been saying that forever. We've given Roger this many, many times, and we'll say it again, the biggest irony of life. We love speaking of this because eventually you each figure it out. Because you move through your life thinking that you're supposed to be something different. You're looking for out there, and you keep trying. Maybe if I do this, maybe if I act like that person, maybe if I follow this plan or this path, that's going to do it. And then you come to the end of your life, and then you start to discover, and Roger can speak to this. He knows. He knows all you're trying to do is just be yourself. That's it. There's nobody else out there like you. There is no one there. Why would you want to try to be someone else? Because you were given this unique being that is you. But you keep discounting that, putting it away, and saying somebody else has more of the goods than you do. Somebody else was given more of the talent. I was this little person who that didn't happen. And so our point now is we need you to stop lying to yourselves. And we need you to come together in a much grander way now, because there is this shift that is happening in your world that needs your energy. It needs your energy. And again, the thing that we want to say over and over and over, your energy is just you deciding to love yourselves. Just become okay with you. Because as we said before, you're looking for this authenticity. Many of you humans have said, that's the thing. That's become a buzzword, authenticity. And we said authenticity is the lack of self-judgment. Do you get that? Now think about how much you haven't done that. You have not practiced that. Mindfulness is meaning that you're paying attention to what you're telling yourself. That's all. And you have choice. You have free will. We began giving Roger the idea of free will decades ago, and we want to explain it again here. Because you have potential, each of you have potential. And you've known it, you felt it, you can see the things that are there. But you also have free will, which means that you can choose not to do the thing that's right in front of you. Some of you think you've come into the world and you're destined to do certain things. You are not. Because you have free will. Now, you may have inclinations to do certain things. You may have desires to do certain things, but they're not going to happen until you do something. So that potential is lost, is wasted until you decide to move in the direction of what you feel. We're saying that because sometimes that's what's so difficult. You need to have something that's tangible, and what you feel is not tangible, but that's what you're supposed to follow. That's what you're meant to follow because it's you. Your life journey is the most important thing that you have. Why not own that? Why not decide to make this the most fun adventure you possibly could? Because that's why and again, we want to say this because you'll understand it soon. Because we're not saying anything accidentally again. You may not accept it now, but we're saying that you're here in the world, on the earth at this time, to be a part of this grand restructuring, because you knew you were going to make a difference, and you knew the difference was going to be made when you decided to own yourself, when you decided to let go of the restrictions that you've constantly held there. Because see, when you do that, because your parents will be so happy, your ancestors are looking down on you. We gave a message some time ago, many months ago. We said, your ancestors are watching. See, that's what's going on. You each are here completing certain tasks within your soul family that they couldn't do. You're supposed to do it, except you believe that everybody else has done it already. That is never true. The world that you want to see has not been created yet. You're doing it right now. But you must do it deliberately. That's why we're going through this. The strain of the last several years in your human experience has been great. You are all exhausted from it. We get that, but understand why you did it. And we're saying that too. We want you did it. You placed yourself in this situation because it was going to be that impetus that you needed, that you wanted to move forward in the world. Now you make up other excuses. Roger did that forever, did it forever. The big one we just revealed to him the other day was his refusal to accept even the work that he has done. We brought it up because he never talks about it. He never talks about it. He has to have other people say, oh yeah, he made this big difference in this person. Somebody else will talk about it. And he wondered, well, am I just not good at doing that? No, that wasn't it. He was disconnected from his value, just as you have been. Every human is. Every human is. Otherwise, you couldn't evolve, you see. You came to the earth, you're born, you take steps, you evolve, and you keep moving, you take the next step, and you keep evolving. That's what happens. Until you start a trajectory, which your world has done, which leads you in another direction. The weather that you're experiencing now is directly due to that. You have this deniability, it's plausible deniability. You ignore certain things and then want to use them for your benefit. And we're talking about science. See, we come from the belief, which Roger has, because we are coming through him. Let's explain that. Your higher selves within each of you will connect to this realm of source that you each are a part of that has zero judgment. They're just out there having a good time. They're just completely free. But you have judgments. You have these things. You have these things in your life that you are moving through. That's what happens. But it's purposeful. It's part of your evolutionary journey. And you know the difference. You always know the difference when you become quiet and listen. You know if you're allowing fear to take over and hold you back, or if you're being guided by your intuitive self, your higher self, and doing what you feel you're meant to do in this world. You always know the difference. And you always also know the choice that you are making. But sometimes you may not become honest about it. But you do always know. This period of time on your planet is so vital, is so important. And there will be more. We have constant, if you've noticed in many messages, we have said, we will give you more later. We want you to understand this. The reason we do that, as we have said, you can't understand it all at once. You don't accept it. Your brain, you have trained your brains to discount certain beliefs about yourself. So we have to, change that to get you to begin to accept. So the things that you may see that you want to do, you may have not gotten there because of those restrictions that only you have created. Only you have done that. There's certain things that you must look at again in terms of the choices that you might make. There's you don't have any accidental results. You don't have them in your life, and the world doesn't have them. What's happening in your world right now is not accidental. We told you about it. That's why that message from 2017 is sitting there. It's a playing out what that is. It's existed forever. You have existed forever. But you just keep working it out each time you come to the earth. Each time you come to decide that you're going to come to the earth plane, you take on a role and you decide, this is what I'm going to work on this time. And we're going to say this again, because there's some of you who have had these ideas about your age getting in the way. Some of you think you're too young to be understanding or doing this, and that's never true either. You're on a different evolutionary journey. Some of you think you're too old. That's what Roger was doing. He's saying, well, wait a minute, why am I doing this now? Because that was part of his journey. That's when it was supposed to show up. Your chronological age has nothing to do with your evolutionary journey. We will continue to say that until you get it. But what we will say, again, the time that you wanted to awaken to who you are is now. That's why you wanted to be in this world during this time. There are no accidents. As we kept taking Roger back to all of these things, we took him back, as we said, to Eleanor Roosevelt, and this is the point we want to make. She said, with freedom, the people who were running around saying, I want my freedom, those folks like you have been doing probably, freedom also requires great responsibility. Always. For you to have the freedom that you want in your life, you have to be responsible for what you've been given. But that's the denial that we're talking about. You've been denying that you have any talent. You've been denying all of that. So now you're not being responsible for what you have. So you don't have any freedom. That's why you've been held back. You can't get the freedom. Now, as a world, as a collective, you can see how that's played out. So you forgot the premise, as Eleanor Roosevelt said, that the responsibility is for all. When you look at the world, you have a greater responsibility, not to just yourself, but to all, because you are all one. That's the concept that most of you have not gotten, even though all of your leaders have told you that for eons. Every single one, except the ones who tried to control you. That was different. There were those too in your history. You can find them. They told you, no, you don't have any power. You can't do anything, because that was to subjugate you. But you're different now. You decided to come into a whole different space, a whole different time period, time trajectory right now to catapult yourself forward if you choose to do it. That's why we said choice. If you choose. And many times Roger did not choose, but again, that's perfect. He understands it now, and it's become this whole acceptance, because now he's so excited. He's so excited for you, because he knows what's within you, because he doubted it so much. He could not know this. He could not do this if he had not lived his life exactly as he did, going through all of these trials and tribulations and more trauma than you can possibly imagine. And to come here now and say, oh, wow, that all made sense. And that's what he wants for each of you, because we know you've had difficulties. All of your difficulties will make sense. They were not accidental. You were not being punished. That's the other thing we want to talk about. Some of you have felt that because it's been so long before you've gotten things to work. And so you think, maybe I'm cursed. Maybe I'm being punished. That is never true. No, you took on something because you wanted to really expand. You took on a portion of your evolutionary journey that included more of your ancestors, and you took a big portion because you wanted to make a big change, not only in your life, but in theirs. Because when you work through something, you heal your parents. The stuff they couldn't do, you're going to do it. And they're going to see that and going to say, thank you. That's why we said your ancestors are watching. They are. As we had Roger see in this one program that he was watching last night, and this brilliant person said, as you try to run from your past, he goes, the past is not dead. It's always there. So, but you have this deniability that's going on in your life, that has gone on in your life, but it's really playing out in your world right now. It really is playing out. You're pretending like you don't know what's happening, except you see that certain people are suffering, and then you turn your back and you think it's not happening. It is. Because, as we said, the whole point of this, the entire point of the pandemic, was to cause you to come together. not separating. You're doing exactly the opposite. There was this grand scheme, let's call it that. There was a grand scheme. We thought if we could separate more of you, you couldn't touch anyone. You had to do social distancing. If we could do that for the longest period of time, maybe you would come back together and say, let's come together and start loving ourselves so we could love other people. But no, you didn't do that. You said, let's just make it worse, which is where you're sitting right now. This is why we made this urgent. Because what's coming up in the next several weeks, it's not going to look great for a lot of folks, but you will understand now. It's not going to fall apart. You will understand that your part is being called forth at a greater level now because of what you will see in the world. And so that's why we wanted to infuse you with this information so that you build up your character, you build up your light, because the world's going to need to see it. Each of you has doubted yourselves so much. And there is nothing that we want more, is for you to understand that what you doubted was completely a waste of time, because you had so much more that you could offer if you decide to accept it. And the thing that will happen, and you'll see it, it's always the first step of stepping into your greatness is the most difficult. Stepping into that thing that you feel you're supposed to do and putting it out there and saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is who I am, is challenging. But once you do it, you will be so proud of yourself, and then things start to flow. And we're saying that because we know what will happen, because what you will do will be for the good of the world. And at this period in your world's history, with this change that has gone on, anything that you do now that is going to prosper others, it's going to prosper you in such a great way. That's what's happening. And that's the paradigm shift that is happening in your world right now, which is why you wanted to be here now. You just didn't know that. Roger didn't know. He didn't. How could he know? We told him, no, you're not going to have any memory. What point would it, what good would it do you to come into this life with a complete memory of everything you're supposed to do? No, you're supposed to figure that out. That's the beauty. That's the adventure. That's what each of you are doing now. And if you take those steps, we assure you that what you will find is this magnificence that's within you. It's always been there. But now you're going to start giving it permission. You're going to start giving it freedom. And we're doing that. The reason we wanted to do this, we needed Roger. We said we might get a little animated with this because we want him to make this for you so real. We don't want you to judge yourself or feel anything that you come up with is weird. It's never that. You will connect to your spirits, you will connect to your higher self in whatever way you do that, but just know that you're doing it. And you've always done it. But now you're going to move into a place of trusting it a lot more, which is the only reason that we did this today, is to bring you into greater acceptance of you. We will continue these. We feel that there's more that's going to come through, and especially in the next several months. So we will have Roger plan more, because as we told him, we exposed him to something a little bit earlier that he doesn't completely understand yet. So that is the process. We will wait, and so we'll do another one. And because there's more information that's coming through, and it's going to be important because, again, your strength and who you are is going to be so important in the coming months. Your belief and your importance in the world, as we said this morning, is going to become more important than ever. And you're going to love yourself so much when you start doing this. You're going to prosper. You're going to look at everything that's going on in the world, and you're going to be different as a result of this intersection that you had here today and what you're going to remember, and it's going to start playing out in your life later. That's exactly what's going to come up. Any question about what's going on for you or what the world, what's coming up for you?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'd like to ask, given my situation, is it okay to get involved in a much higher profile, because I'm living in a country that's not my own, and there's political concerns about how to get involved in a way that will allow me to continue that.
Yes. No, that's why you were placed there. As we said earlier, You were each placed in particular places. And yeah, we're talking about your births, but even beyond that, you start moving yourselves to places that you don't understand why, but you do that because you're being guided. Your higher self guided you to be there. And there is a way. This is what you're going to do. We're so glad you brought this up, because now what you're going to do is figure out this loving way. That's important. We want you to understand, because when you bring that forth, it will be accepted. So you're going to have to figure out this loving way to bring your information, your gift, whatever it is, forth, that people can accept it on whatever level. If it's the government, if it's the individuals, they will begin to accept it, because you know you have the ability to fashion it in a way where that will occur. That's why you were placed there. It may take you some time to figure it out, but you will do that. There are no accidents. And that's with everyone. But let's just say, the minute you start to figure out a way that you can help yourself, oh, this is so good. Thank you for this. Because when you look at what can I do that's going to prosper another during this time, what can I do that's going to honor who I am and will prosper another? We got that. What can I do that's going to honor who I am and prosper another? That's what's going to grow. And it's going to happen for each of you who decide to do that. And you have to look at it, right? We had Roger do this. We did it a few weeks ago. Many of you might have known this, but we had him create something. He said, we want you to take a few people, because we need to make this a little more potent. We need to really show what people have within them. And we need you to get out of the way and do this. So we said, do this. Think of how you can offer something to someone else that's going to really benefit them, but it's going to benefit you as well. And we're saying that because that's something that many of you have not done in a way that would help you, because you have this giving, being, and sometimes the receiving was not fully in blossom. Now it will be, especially if you think of it in this way. Whatever you can think of that you can do for another that is going to honor who you are will benefit you. It's going to prosper you. That's what's going to start happening, because you're coming into alignment with your life purpose, your soul's purpose. That's what you each have. You have a soul's purpose. This greater entity that you are not aware of, but it is directing what you're doing. That's why you end up with certain people. That's why you end up in certain groups while you're here. You've done it in different ones too. You've been in different ones, but now you know where you are now. This life is where you're supposed to honor this particular incarnation and cause it to blossom, because of the condition your world is experiencing. They need you right now.
If I could ask, while I was listening, that very same question that was just asked was going through my mind too. Mm-hmm. And as a part of that, and you're talking about things our world isn't acknowledging, and I feel frustrations in that area too. And it's so much easier to see what other people aren't acknowledging. I'm wondering what I'm blind to, and what am I not acknowledging?
Not acknowledging that you're the person who's supposed to see that, because you needed to see that, because what that did was it awakened you to who you are. Because you could see, oh, wait a minute, I came to be something else. I came to do this. And I would not have known that unless I could have seen this. I wouldn't have known it unless I could see those people. That's what you're supposed to do. And this is the main point that we wanted to make, because each of you are going to see this. You know that you came here to do something that was going to be good and offer love and all of that. You know that. You're not going to see that in everyone coming forth in the next several weeks or months, actually. You're not going to see all of that. So you have to remember, we're counting on you to remember why you're here and to offer this acceptance and this love. And so you've got to do it with yourself first. You cannot do this unless you willingly go in and decide, I'm going to let go of my self-judgment and I'm going to start loving myself, because I know if I do that, I'm going to start doing it with everyone else, and then the world changes. We said this before, and we want to make this really clear. The last 5 years for Roger has been so challenging, so difficult, but he also knows it was so purposeful. He loved every minute of it now.
My question is, how do we maintain our hope and our energy and positivity
Oh,
when so much around us is pulling us away from our purpose.
oh, thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much. Because we would have forgotten. We would have forgotten. Your energy is the most powerful thing that you have. Your energy is more powerful than anything else. And then when you use it, when you decide, oh, I see it, I own it, I'm allowing it to vibrate in the world. And those people who are doing whatever else you're seeing, they're going to start to soften because of what you're offering. Each of you, that's why you're here. That's what we wanted to say. And so we wanted to, thank you for this, because you're never going to fight with anyone. That's because you don't win that. That's why we took you back to everything that's happened. That's what your ancestors did. It did not work. You came to heal in a different way. And so you have this energy, this loving energy that is more powerful than everything. As we began to say, didn't finish, when these changes occur in your civilization, you come together and all this stuff happens, and you have these conflicts and that, but then you meld, you come together, and what emerges from that is light. Enlightenment is the only thing that survives. Love is the only thing that ever survives. The other stuff falls away. But you do it incrementally. You've done it in different civilizations, and you're doing it again now. This is a big one, but this is why you each decided to be here. We want you to understand how important you are to move this world forward at this time. That's what you're each doing. So thank you for that, because the energy is more important than anything. And it takes a while for you to really come to understand that. We had to take Roger back to Einstein, because that's how we would start to believe it, you see, because Einstein said later in his life, said, oh, that's all it is. You know, when you start studying quantum physics and all and mathematics and mechanics and all of that, you get to understand that everything gets broken down to everything that exists within you, and the world is energy, and you have control of that energy, and you control that energy with the way that you choose to think. And that's why we need you to remember during this period when you're going to see all of that other stuff, we need you to remember who you are, the essence of what you came to bring forth in the world. That's going to be more powerful than anything that you see occurring in your experience, in your existence, in your world. There was a saying, and this was these accidental sayings, but it makes sense now. You know, your former first lady in the United States was Michelle Obama, and she said, when they go low, we go high. See, she was ahead of her time then too. She knew that there was something there, but that was for now. You see, that was for now. And it's challenging. What we were saying is that Roger had the last 5 years were challenging for him, difficult, because he had a lot of anger, he had a lot of hatred, he had a lot of that stuff going on. And we said, okay, that's good. You can't express it because you know that that's just you moving through your garbage. That's what you're doing, because you know you're here to express something different. But you can't do that unless you get rid of all the garbage. So looking at all the stuff that was going on that he just totally despised, caused him to remember what we told him so long ago, but he kept denying. We said, we had so many messages, and you'll probably find them. We said, you knew before you were born, which you each did, but you just find out as you live your lives. And that's what's happening right now. Your energy, your essence is more important. Everything that you look at that activates you, that's different than you, it was meant to do that. You're meant to look at those things and say, wait a minute, that's not me. But then you have to remember the most powerful thing that you can do is bring forth your essence, your energy. You're never going to win by fighting them, by judging them, but none of that. It doesn't work. They're not going to be able to hear that. They will feel the energetic love that your light will bring forth into the world.
I just had the thought that we are currently like we're in an avalanche,
Yes.
and everything is highly chaotic.
Yes.
And we might feel that we cannot influence where all the debris falls.
Yes.
But we are now actually able to influence the patterns where the fallout is going to be.
Yes.
That just came to me.
Yes. Yes. That's it. That's it. We told you would remember. We said you would remember, and each of you will. So that's why we needed to do this. We put urgency on this today because we know what's coming. Okay, let's explain that. Sometimes it feels that we are making predictions or we're being psychic or doing all that. It's not that. It's not that challenging. What we do is we logically look at the choices that you're making, and we know what the results of those choices are going to be, and we can predictably tell you when they're going to show up. That's all. You can do the same thing. You each have that ability. But more people have not done that. And that's why your world looks the way it does now. The deniability we're talking about is that each person not accepting responsibility for the condition of their world. And every person has that option within them to do that. The other thing, we want to say this, the reason that we're being so passionate about this is because we need you. You don't understand how powerful your essence is. We need you to just own who you are. That will change so much. That's what this is about. See, because when more of you come together, you have your light, but then when you come together with like-minded people, then that becomes brighter, becomes bigger, and more need to come in, which is occurring now. You've probably seen this. You've probably noticed more groups are coming together because there's a synergy that happens. There's a momentum that you connect when collectively that becomes greater. But within that, we still want you to understand one person, you, we'll never stop saying this, you have the ability to change all of it. You do. You may not accept it in this lifetime. You may not do that because not everyone does. But we want you to understand that you do have that. There's no human that was born that did not have that ability. They just may not have chosen to utilize it in the particular lifetime or life experience that they might be living. You have that choice now. And we're saying that because we know that each of you are in a different plane. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this room. You wouldn't be in listening to this call. You wouldn't see this video when it's up. None of that would happen because you came to be, your energetic DNA brought you to these connections to give you the confidence, the courage, and the encouragement to move forward in your life and own who you are, because now is the time that you intended to do that. And you will see it. You will all see it. We're going to say one other thing because we have to do a little acknowledgement here. Okay. We went through, again, we talk about this a lot because it's more helpful when we also acknowledge or present to you Roger's resistance so that you own your own. He has so much of it. But now it's moving. It's changing. So the other night he went for a walk. Put on his, we control everything. So through your higher selves, you're being directed. You don't know that. But he put on his, when he went for his walk, he put on his phone, he wanted to listen to a video. And when he listened to the video, and he's done this many times, and you have done this is why we're pointing it out. He started to hear the video earlier in the day, but he put it away. See, because it was too true. It was too acknowledging. It was acknowledging so much that he had been in denial about. And so then when he went out for the walk in the evening, we said, you're going to listen to it. You're going to listen to it. And that was the shift that he needed, because it could not have been more accurate. It could not, there was no way that he could listen to this and think it was accidental. Each of you are going to start to, we're saying this because what's going to happen, because this is going to help. You're going to start to notice things that have gone on in your life that you did not understand before that now are going to start to make sense. And we're saying that because when you notice them, we want you to please acknowledge the perfection of your life, the plan that was in your life that is now unfolding. That was meant to do it now, that was meant to open up to who you are at this moment in time. Each of you. There's no difference here. These are so, but you're breaking down the old types. When you look at the message, the control, that's what you're all moving through, breaking down that control. But the fact is, most of that control has existed within you. And you've been controlling yourself from knowing who you are and acknowledging and actualizing your greatest self. but it's okay because you're doing it now. And we will keep saying that, and we're going to keep helping you to accomplish that because it's important now. Okay. Are there other questions? Otherwise, we are complete.